All right, let's jump right in. We're going to take a deep dive into the business model behind hydrogen water. It's a massive industry worth billions of yen, and it's all built on this really interesting idea, something the source material calls a satisfaction fee.
So how on earth do you build a billion-yen business from just plain water? I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, doesn't it? How do you take something so basic and turn it into a premium product? Well, the answer is a fascinating, brilliantly constructed business model. One that's, almost perfectly bulletproof.
Okay, so this whole model stands on three really clever pillars. First up, it's hard to disprove. I mean, it's just water with some gas in it. You can't say for sure it does nothing. Second, the effects are impossible to measure. We're talking about things like feeling better or having more energy. How do you put a number on that? You can't. And third, it causes no harm. It's just water. This creates this perfect feedback loop. If you feel great, hey, the water worked. And if you don't, well, that's on you. Maybe it's your diet, maybe you just need to drink more of it. See how that works? So if the product itself is so simple, you've got to ask, what's the financial hook? The answer, my friends, is an absolutely astonishing profit machine. Let's unpack how this thing is fueled. Get ready for this. The big motivator here is a potential gross profit margin of up to 95%. Let that sink in, 95%. For any consumer product, that is just, wow, it's almost unheard of. To put it simply, for every dollar they make, up to 95 cents of it could be pure gross profit. That's insane. So you're probably wondering, how is a margin like that even possible? Well, the secret is right here in the cost breakdown. The water itself, we're talking pennies. The bottle or pouch it comes in, that's actually often the most expensive component. And that special hydrogen process, turns out it's also incredibly cheap to do. When you add it all up, the total cost to make one of these things is usually less than 100 yen. That's what, less than $1? And this is where the gap just becomes huge. Take a look. The production cost is teeny tiny, but the price you pay for a single bottle, that's already 3 to 5 times more. But, and this is the real kicker, the at-home machines that generate the hydrogen water, those can go for thousands of dollars, and they're often built using pretty cheap existing tech. The price you pay has almost zero connection to what it actually costs to make. Now, who do you think is actually buying this stuff? You might assume it's people who are, easily fooled. But the answer is actually really surprising. The marketing is way more sophisticated than that, and it's aimed at a very specific type of consumer, the informed consumer. So let's paint a picture of this target customer. They are super into their health, they might be a bit skeptical of mainstream medicine, and they're actively looking for other ways to stay healthy. The really key thing here is they want that feeling of doing something for their health, making an effort. And here's the real twist. They often think they're way too smart, way too well-researched to ever fall for a scam. This quote really hits the nail on the head. The product hooks people who actually do their homework. They read the articles, they watch the videos, they're studious. But, and this is the crucial part, they don't have the scientific background to tell the difference between, say, a tiny study on mice and a major double-blind human trial. They're eager to learn, but they're missing the tools to really verify what they're learning. Okay, so this whole business model basically lives inside a gap between what the science really says and what the marketing tells you. It's a classic case of what's called information asymmetry, and it's pretty much the engine that makes this whole thing run. Let's break down this knowledge divide, because it's pretty stark. On one side, the seller knows that hydrogen is a tiny, slippery molecule that vanishes from water and your body almost instantly. But what does the buyer hear? It's full of healthy hydrogen. The seller knows there's no solid proof that just drinking this water gives you any health benefits. The buyer hears, backed by scientific research. And my favorite, the seller says studies show, when they know full well those studies might be on a handful of lab rats, but the buyer hears proven to work in people. It's a totally different story. Okay, so with that crazy 95% profit margin, where is all the money going? This breakdown tells the whole story. Look at that tiny little sliver for production cost. It's almost nothing. The vast majority of the money is just plowed right back into advertising, marketing, and paying salespeople. The cash isn't going into making the product better. It's going into making you believe the product is valuable. It's all about perception. All right, I know what you're probably thinking right about now. How is any of this legal? And that's a great question.
The answer is that it's a total masterclass in navigating the gray areas of the law by being super careful with their words. The entire legal game plan boils down to language. The marketing is jam-packed with these legally safe, kind of vague words. They'll never say their product cures anything. Nope. Instead, it supports your wellness. They won't promise you results, but they'll talk all day about its potential and possibility. These words are like a legal force field. And this, right here, is the core truth of the whole thing. They aren't selling you a cure. They're selling you hope. So you're not buying a medicine with proven, measurable effects. You're buying the feeling that you're taking action, that you're trying something. You're buying hope in a bottle. And guess what? There are no government agencies that regulate hope. So to stay out of legal trouble, these companies are incredibly careful. First, they'll always have a disclaimer somewhere saying, hey, this is not a pharmaceutical product. They avoid words like cure or treat, like the plague. This lets them operate in this fuzzy gray area of consumer laws. It's not technically illegal because the claims they make are so vague that you can't actually prove they're false. So after breaking all this down, what's the big takeaway? Well, it actually gives us a really simple but powerful tool. One single question you can ask yourself when you're looking at pretty much any wellness product out there. I know it can feel a little overwhelming trying to figure out what's real and what's not, but the source material points to one simple filter, a way to cut through all the marketing noise, especially for products that promise these fuzzy, subjective benefits. And here it is, the one question you need to ask. Is it worth paying for something you can't measure? Think about it. If you can't objectively measure the effect, you have no way of knowing if it's working or not working, or maybe even making things worse. At that point, as the source puts it, it's not really a purchase anymore. It's an act of faith. And whether that's worth your money? Well, that's a question only you can answer.